Hello everyone and welcome to Cappuccino with HR. My name is Rudi Bauer, and after 40 years in business, I'm 100% sure that the success of companies is directly related to the passion of the people working for these companies. With the Cappuccino of HR, we created a format where we really invite people. It's HR leaders, it's recruiters, it's talent acquisition guys, and we're talking about all the different kind of topics, and the range is going from AI, of course, to new work, to leadership, and all the challenges along the way. Yeah, hello and good afternoon, and to another episode of Cappuccino with HR. Today I'm really happy and proud and delighted to have Ludmila Tomperi with us. She's working as a senior talent acquisition partner in headquarters at Wolt. And we had her already as speaker, I think 2 years ago at the WeAreDevelopers conference in Berlin. And as we are planning to have some more next year, so probably there's a real good chance to find a slot in Ludmila's calendar as well that fits her needs, and then we could probably see each other in person again. So welcome, Ludmila. It's a real pleasure to have you with us.
Thank you so much. Pleasure to be here.
Before we start, today we're talking about a topic which I think I had a really funny episode which I want to share with all of you. I was talking to a 90-year-old guy. I met this guy. I know him for many years, and I met him a couple of weeks ago. And he was born in 1935, so just before the Second World War. And I asked him, because we had a nice discussion, and I said, "Okay, where have you got your resilience?" And he said, "What is it?" And then I really was a little bit a kind of, yeah, I was missing the words, and then we started a discussion. And the wonderful thing is that it brought me also, and I was looking forward to our podcast episode today, because we're talking about resilience. We're talking about from stress to strength, and what does it mean? And for me, the surprising fact was, I mean, these guys really probably had resilience because they had to survive. Yeah, I think it was pure naked fighting for their lives, and a lot of bad months and years afterwards as well. And they were not even thinking about. So, but before we step into it, Ludmila, I would ask you to introduce you briefly yourself, please.
Sure. Well, it's Ludmila. Thank you for pronunciation. I know that it can be very difficult, so you did really great. Also called Lumi, adopted more to the Finnish language. Lumi became a bit easier. It means snow in Finnish as well, so it became a little bit more international name there. I'm originally from Kyrgyzstan, so from Central Asia, for those who haven't heard about the country, very beautiful mountain country. Moved to Finland back in 2006 to study, and then have been traveling a bit around the world. Was not falling in love with the country at first. I had a few different others on the list, but then ended up living here now over 20 years and proudly calling this country as my home. With talent acquisition as well, I think there was more as an accident. Like, I like people, I did enjoy network and communication, have been always passionate about communities, people, engineering, love mathematics. So just progressively and naturally ended up between the engineers with a startup community, and then ended up in the sourcing position, talent acquisition positions. Now broaden the spectrum a bit outside of the engineering as well, focusing on other roles. But I have been here also in that field, close to people for around 10 years. As we're talking about resilience, have been on that topic probably all my life, more like studying psychology as a hobby. Did really like the books. And a couple of years ago, best friend of mine turned into the coaching. And I saw that it's one of those, people come and give you tarot cards or something. So it was something that not real for me. So I decided to prove concepts that what is it, and started to learn coaching as well, resilience, emotional intelligence. Probably joined this path like about 3-4 years ago heavily, and have been benefiting from it. And I can see others around me benefiting from this as well. So relating to the resilience topic, that something that you can learn, something that you can study and turn from not believing into it, in actually that might work, and that not
Mhm.
might work not only for me but support others as well.
Mhm. And a second thing which I ask all my guests, because it's called cappuccino with HR, so I have to ask you as well, is what's your favorite coffee?
If I go short, was also thinking about it carefully. I was preparing for our chat. I was thinking, should I go like it's summer? Is it vanilla latte, ice latte? But then after thinking carefully,
Mhm.
the coffee that I like the most is a coffee that I can drink when it was prepared at
Mhm.
once. So if
Uh-huh.
it's a cappuccino, then it's a hot cappuccino. If
Yeah.
it's an iced latte, it's a latte that still has ice in it.
Yeah.
I have two little kids, so it might explain that quite a lot. So
Yeah.
that's my favorite coffee, the one that I
Oh,
can drink in peace
drink
and
it.
fully.
So it's probably an espresso because that's really just one bite.
No, I need the long one.
You need long. Okay. Okay. Let's jump into the topic. I mean, everybody's talking about resilience. I think there's not even a single job at the moment where resilience is not mentioned in a way, in a direct or indirect way. So why do you think has it become so important in our daily life?
I think it's more about the question that you asked at the beginning. What do we mean by the resilience?
Mm-hmm.
Is it something that people can just put themselves together and continue moving? So, if we're taking it from the business perspective and money perspective, you do need people around you that if everything goes crazy, that they don't start running around screaming even louder and then everything falls apart, that you do need people who are able to cope, the people that can help you continue running. And unfortunately, the world has been spinning faster and faster. And that's not helping that if previously, 30 to 40 years ago, you knew that you graduate from university, you go to your job, you stay there 20 years, like you know all your life. Now you don't know what will happen tomorrow. And this psychologically is very difficult for us, for people, not knowing what's happening tomorrow. That has been very much a struggle, a mental struggle for everyone. So this resilience is ability to cope with that stress, to cope not just like stress around you, but mentally continue living, continue moving forward. Otherwise you just freeze, die, everything goes apart. So like that's probably like resilience is something that is needed, that you know that your team is not going to fall apart, you know that you can continue your business. So we were talking from the business aspect, that that's why you need people, resilient people around you, pretty much.
Mm-hmm. Is resilience something that you should build up for yourself as an individual, or is it something where the whole ecosystem or the place where you are, where you need it, needs to work together to build it up on what, and if so, what is needed? I mean, what can companies do to get resilience for their people, or is it more or less a kind of a really individual human thing where you and yourself have to take care that it's there for yourself? What's your take on this?
I have had so much back and forth on that.
Mm-hmm.
To be very honest, I think that starting again with the resilience, is it something that we are born with, or is it
Mm-hmm.
something that we learn? Is it
Mm-hmm.
something that individual, or is it something that, as you mentioned, society-wise, we are all very different. We have very different background, cultural background, language background. We are coming from different families, and I believe that resilience is something part of each personalities. Someone has more of it, some has less. You did share the beautiful story, which I think I also came into conclusion that sometimes resilience is just because you don't have choice. Is it what I want to live in? Like, do I want to live in a way that I don't have a choice, so I need to get up and get moving? However, this is a part of that. This level of resilience can be very different, and it really depends on the country you're living, your basics of Maslow pyramid that are fulfilled? Is it, are you on the survival mode? What is your level of the resilience? Are you resilient on so-called, which meal do I choose for my coffee today? Or are you on the level, do I have a bread to provide on the table to the family? So that's also very different. And back to your question, what I think that I believe that resilience can be trained, but it's also not the separate subject. So it's together with emotional intelligence. It's about self-awareness. It's about understanding your own self, and then the coping mechanisms. It's something that you can provide by the society, by the company, as a managers, as a team, as a company that employs people, but as a person. So I don't think that I have an answer for you, like whose responsibility is there. I always believe that it's like there is an expression that who is responsible to save the drowning person is a drowning person. So in a way, it's like we can't expect that others will take care of us. So we should always start with ourselves. However, it would be great in ideal world to have this support from the company, educating leaders, educating society. So like the same as raising a kid takes a village, supporting a person in resilience takes a village.
Do you think? I mean, you already were describing it a little bit. I mean, you brought up the example with, okay, which milk should I choose for my coffee, or is it am I even able to bring bread for my family on the table? Do you think we are a little bit too saturated in the moment that it's so difficult to get or stay resilient because of this saturation? Do you see kind of an impact from this kind of saturation level that we have achieved in Europe in the meantime? And I think some of our problems that we see now and we're facing now are also an economy, and the crisis has, from my point of view, and that's my personal opinion, is a kind of coming from the saturation. And then this kind of, it's a little bit like leaning back and enjoying everything is fine. And we had this situation for some years. And now we are forced to move up, to stand up, and to probably accept the changes that are going on all over the place.
So you're saying we got too comfortable?
Yeah, probably yes. I mean, that's really my personal opinion on it, because I think we sometimes I have the feeling that not all of us, but many of us are really discussing luxury problems. Yeah, and
I think that's I think that's exactly what you said, that we need to remind ourselves that we are discussing the luxury problems.
Yeah.
More often.
Yeah.
That's probably, but then again, we are all different. We don't know, like, I think right now we're talking so broad in that sense, what exactly resilience is and like how to help. Again, I have this sometimes, like, that coming from my childhood and the way I was raised, that you have a problem and what do? You don't really solve the problem, or like you're not really coping with it, but you get this feedback, well, someone else has it even worse. But it's not competition who has it worse. Like, honestly, it's like, I lost a job. Well, I lost a job 2 months ago. It's like, it's not the competition. That's first what, like, the mechanisms that worked before, like men up, working on the mining is worse than working on the computer. Yes, but I don't want to work in mines. I want to work on the comfortable. So it's more about that, stopping myself as well, in the sense, like, yes, I agree that at this moment I'm living luxury life, and let's enjoy it. Let's put it in the box and like, good job, happy. Not absolutely not saying that the problems that we have are not real problems. They are real at the current situation. Absolutely. Trying to compare it, who is worse, let's stop doing it. Let's start to look like, how do you want it? What is good for you? I think that's like my biggest problem. I don't know how about others, comparing who lives better, who lives worse, whose problem is bigger. So like this comparison, it doesn't give any peace in mind for myself, at least. I think that's where I'm losing this ability for the resilience, for sure.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. And I mean, when companies want to support their employees in building up this resilience, I mean, what I hear quite often, and I think for me that's totally logic, and I think it makes sense, and it probably should be the first step. Or the first thing that the companies assure for getting it right. How important do you see kind of psychological safety or building this safe space? Because I think that's probably there where everything starts. If you
Yeah.
want to solve this issue, which is a kind of a really personal, probably very intimate issue for people, how could companies start building that, and what needs to be done? Or do you see it important?
Absolutely. I personally believe that is one of the crucial ones, that is very important. I do know people who are very skeptical about it. Again, like taking it more as a step back, what do you mean by the psychological safety? For me, psychological safety is adulthood, which means that you have people who are owning. They're owning their emotions, they're owning their actions. When they're coming, they know what they're doing. Like, stopping playing this. We are all the family coming to this work to have fun. It's like there is a work. It's amazing to have fun at work, but it's still work that needs to be done. So, in a way, setting up the proper expectations, proper way of communications, and then also talking about the trust. And psychological safety is all about that people can come across as they are, which is amazing, which is shouldn't be a full stop there, as they are, but more as they are, that it doesn't disturb others as well. So it's kind of like it's amazing to be yourself. However, if it's like completely disturbing the rest of people, so in a way being mindful about others as well. If you're asking question or you're making comment, what does it bring? Just because you have the right to have a freedom of speech and make a comment, but if it's harmful for someone, then it's not very psychological safety. So from the company side, I think, again, that's my personal belief, setting up a clear communication, setting up like clear rules, educating people. That education is a big part, because very often we do harm by just not knowing, by being ignorant or maybe narrow-minded to some extent. Sometimes we don't mean to hurt people, but again, we're working and living in multicultural world. Some things that we do might be that we do from best intention, but we might really hurt someone. So like this, setting up expectations, education, setting up so-called code of conduct, and giving a space for everyone truly leave their comments as well, to participate in building that everyone voice is heard in. Again, working on TA, very often we do have this sensitive topic of HR, that in the companies where we don't see psychological safety, there is lack of communication, the people are afraid to be themselves, they're scared, let's say, for losing the job. So in a way, also setting up the expectations that if you have expectations from the role and you're fulfilling them, then you're fine. In a way that people do feel safe, that know their actions will influence on outcome or on their salary, so they know what to expect. Like I'm very often do compare parenthood with a real life, in the sense that what happens with kids does work with the managers, with the leaders, and with your teammates. So if you have a kid, they don't know the rules, and they go to the sea to swim, and they might drown because they just don't know this. They don't know when to stop. Survival instinct sometimes doesn't work. The same for adults. So if you set up the rule, which understandable for them, don't go, let's say, below the belly button line.
Yeah.
That's clear. They know, they understand where the belly button, that's it. They don't go further because they got the rule. So everyone happy. But if you don't set up this one, You will get upset because, let's say, your kid completely wet, or they went to the sea because you didn't set up the rules, you expected them. So the same about psychological safety. You have people, you can't just expect from them to come and be the way you want. It needs to be communicated. That's like my 100 beliefs that, like, if you want something, there is no expectations. There is communications and there is a discussion over those.
I think that's a really good one. And I think probably that also creates, of course, I mean, the example with the kids is really nice to underline that, probably psychological safety comes with setting up the framework and setting up the rules and guidance. Probably it's guidance. And this leads to trust, and trust leads to openness, talking about issues and troubles and problems, probably. Yeah, the good one. I really agree to this one from my side as well. Yeah, of course. I mean, now we are living in times, I mean, we need to talk about that as well. We're living in times, I mean, AI is dropping into our lives. I mean, it's more or less a kind of, I always call it the second and even worse. I'm a big fan of AI, but from the dimension, I call it worse. I think it's an industrial revolution. I think when the steaming engine was brought to companies, I think a lot of people were afraid of losing their jobs, being replaced by machines then. And I think what we have now with AI and the speed that it's really rushing into our lives, I think it's even worse. And I mean worse, not in the sense of worse, but the dimensions. I think it's probably exponentially, the dimensions are exponentially higher than what happened with the steaming engine. What does that mean for humans? What does that mean for resilience? I mean, you were talking about being transparent. I mean, transparency is probably very often put in one kind of combination with transparency. Mean, okay, take decisions not from the gut feeling, take them underlined by data. How do you see that? What happens there now? What does it do with us? What does it do with resilience? How could we bring that together in a kind of a guided way as well?
Absolutely. For me, that's also like adaptability, probably, if not equal to the resilience, but the biggest part of it. So for me, the resilience is also not about being able to stand up against something, but being able to adapt to the new reality, and preferably adapt very quick. When I do run some emotional intelligence trainings, or we talk about emotional intelligence, there is one animal on the planet which is the most resilient and probably the most that people don't really like. Do you want to guess it?
Probably red.
Cockroach. The cockroach actually one of those that has been resilient to most of it. Like, it's really hard to get rid of it. It's adapting to the new realities. It's like spreading across countries and continents. You can challenge on that on me, but like what I have read, it's one of those that have been there for centuries now and probably will survive the nuclear war.
I think I was naming them red because I really hate reds.
Well, I think they might have also something, maybe a bit less time, but it would be interesting, maybe less. But no, definitely there are a few of those, but like one of them is that, and it's all about adapting. Like we are, as human beings, we are adapting a little bit slower. It's again just how the body is built. That we're still getting taller or shorter, and now we have more food. Generally, we have people who are getting born taller and bigger because we have enough resources. So we are in a way still as well evolution. Sorry, I'm losing my language. So the evolution works that we are adopting, but slowly. And resilience here is also about adaptability. And AI, I love it, to be very honest. Of course, it scares me. Of course, it scares me. I still giggle when I see the results of AI because I still believe that if we as a human not intelligent enough in average, AI cannot really get intelligent enough in average just because the data we put in, the data we get out. So I still have there a hope. But I do love that I'm actually getting very excited to see how people use it. Because sometimes you can see that used from the angles that you wouldn't even imagine. Yes, like probably the most common, that's it helps to write text. So it helps with a language, especially when you do the multiple languages, play with the pictures, do something. But when you really need to put thoughts and to make your life easier, why not? Creating the will was also probably not met very welcoming and happily at the beginning. Probably also everybody were just carrying things and like, now you will take us away. I know that creating the tram, it's also people who had horses, they were very unhappy because a tram replaced them. Uh, but it is part of the evolution. So it's more how we're going to use it and where we're going to use it. So for me, like this revolution in AI, very interesting. I'm curious where it's going to be leading, but it's already interesting to see how we can take use of it and providing, if I'm talking about TA, better candidate experiences, better analytics about the roles. For example, my pain point very often is when the manager comes to me and say like, I need senior enough person, and then you go to the whole organizational structure and you're like, what exactly do you need when it comes to the skills, when your skills are not hard skills but soft skills? So where you put on the seniority level. Now I have been building for 3 days one part of the business assistant for myself on the GPT enterprise. Sorry again for losing the language, but like I have been just so excited about it. I have been fitting information to it, like what levels do we have, what values do we have in the company, how do we measure, how we can measure. So now I have an assistant when I come in and I say that like in this region I need to hire that level according to our org structure candidate. Could you describe the focus areas of my interview processes for that particular candidate? An assistant doesn't make job for me, but it actually outlines what I should focus on. So it helps me to pay attention to the details that I probably haven't even thought before. But it's very exciting. I have been like for past 3 days testing it around, and it fails to some extent. It fails.
Yeah, of course.
But some of the parts are very exciting.
But I think that the fact that it fails makes it, for me, makes it human, because I think I'm using AI more or less at the moment. Currently, I think I'm using it purely as sparring partner. So I have some thoughts in my head, and then I throw it in, and I get something back, and this gives me new impulses. This helps me to further develop the thing for myself. And of course, sometimes it's pure nonsense that's coming back, but even that could also come back from an assistant in the organization or a friend of mine having a beer together and having a kind of this nice discussion about something. So I really enjoy that, because for me it's a kind of a 24/7 sparring partner. Whenever I have something in mind, I just drop it in and I get something back, and this helps me to further develop thoughts, ideas, and it's really speeding up myself extremely. So for me, it's accelerating my work, it's accelerating myself, and and it very often helps me building a kind of basic structure. So I really enjoy that as well.
Absolutely.
That brings me to another point and another question. How important do you think is curiosity as a kind of a skill or a kind of a basic element in ourselves for increasing resilience?
I think it's like absolute must nowadays, because we just don't have this luxury to stay still. I'm laughing sometimes as well. We did discuss a little bit also about the conference, that we are learning all the time, just thinking like where we have been not even 20 years ago, 10 years ago, 5 years ago. The world is changing with a speed that you have to learn every day something, but there is so much noise. How to pick up the right channel, what to learn, how to learn. So this ability as well, asking questions, being curious, questioning things, also our key for not falling for AI as such, because AI sometimes comes up with this very short tone of voice. Trust me, I know what I'm doing. The most famous last words. But this curiosity actually helps you judging it in a way that, okay, where does machine got this information? What data are they using? Is it the only available information? Is it the only right information? Again, if the source is coming from the one person, does the person, or do we trust the source of the data? So I honestly believe that if we are not curious, we just have we're narrow-minded, we have very limited sources, we have very limited information. So having this curiosity does help. What's next? Why? This again, my favorite subject, kids. It's not enough to give them answer. They do ask you questions that you're like, I don't know, Saturn has rings. Why? You're like, start to think this next level. You start to open it up, like, okay, why? Like, honestly, why?
Yeah, I mean, it's a philosophical question now, but I mean, I have the same impression. I mean, when we were kids, I think we were sitting at the beach and or in the garden, and we were drowning holes in the ground, and we were trying to pick out the rainworm because we wanted to see if it's really true that if you cut him twice in the middle, it still survives. So we all wanted to test that. But the question that I wanted to put into your direction now is, when have we lost this kind of curiosity? Because sometimes I've really the impression that a lot of adults are not a millimeter curious anymore.
Yeah, I can go the parent way and say that it's all about the education. So education teaches us to look one direction. But then again, like coming from Kyrgyzstan, we had very different education. The way that we were studying, we were trying to get everything. Like the subjects that we were studying, it's like physics, mathematics, chemistry. They're like, I have the most random knowledge in my head since like I was 10. Like honestly, very random knowledge. How to survive in the middle of taiga. I don't know why. We had a subject where we were studying it. Then when I went to US, educational system was completely different. When I came to study in Finland to university, I was struggling because we didn't have anymore this approach that you have 5 chapters, you read them, you pass exam. We started to have an approach, let's say marketing. You have the list of the books, and then you come and you answer the questions. And then my biggest struggle was something that you describe, you write the answer, and then teacher says, it's not enough. And you're like, what's not enough? Well, you need more. What's more? And there is no actual structure or no explanation what you have to do or what you need to do. And that opens up as well these curiosities that you can actually study different. Like, if I'm talking about marketing, am I talking about the marketing that is more used in EU, or is it the marketing in different country? Is it the basic principles, or is it the principles that has been developed? So then you start to think, actually, where do I get this more information out? So it can be from the educational system and society as well, or what is expected from us.
So if I sum it up, because with a small look at the watch, I think we are coming really to the end, and I think we definitely have to bring you on one of our stages next year.
Sorry, I like talking.
No, that's perfect. I think we have to continue this kind of conversation in a fireside chat somewhere on a stage at our conferences, because I think it's really a highly interesting topic. But a final question: if we want to have a resilient kind of society, should we already start in kindergarten?
Absolutely. And actually, to be very honest, like for today, I did prepare it about the resilience, because I think, as I mentioned at the beginning, that it's all about self-awareness, emotional intelligence. But that's where we're teaching at the beginning, when we do have this 5-year-old who start to understand that something is hurting or something they're unhappy. What is this feeling? Jealousy, unhappiness, tiredness. I, as adult, not always can actually recognize, am I hungry? Am I tired? We do have more and more spectrum of ADHD. We can hear more and more, especially in the colleagues who are working in the fields where you do have this multifunctioning, that in TA space that you have to do a lot of things. How to cope with this. So this coping mechanism, it is something that we learn from very beginning. This is something that we learn if we don't know, if we can't support ourselves. how we can find this support from around. And that's already from parents, from the closest people, from those who are raising kids, and for those who have this example figure in their life, for sure.
I mean, I was at a conference last week and I heard a topic which I heard the first time, and as a topic, not as a theme, but as a topic itself, and it was called companies really having built an own part of the organization, so they've really a department now that is really taking care about workplace experience as a really tough topic. And I mean, that plays also into that what you mentioned right now. I mean, as we are having individuals with individual issues and topics and specialities, I think workplace experience is not putting nice furniture into a nice room. Yeah, it's a lot more. I think it's really a lot more, and I think companies need to take care about that. But I think even for that, we could talk for another 5 hours. So, Ludmila, it was a really pleasure having you with me. Thank you so much for your time. I'm really looking forward to see you next year at one of our conferences. And it's not only one, it's 3. So there will be one in India, one in Berlin, and one in San Jose in California. So there's 3 times, 3 slots in calendars, probably one fits to you. I'm really looking forward to that. Thank you so much. And thank you to the audience for tuning in. And please stay tuned, and looking forward to see you very soon, all of you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you for watching Cappuccino with HR. If you enjoy this kind of conversations, please don't forget to hit the subscribe button. Then you get all this kind of upfront information, your upcoming episodes, and all my nice guests. Cappuccino with HR is brought to you by WeAreDevelopers, Europe's #1 developer community and a leading platform for connecting HR and companies together with developers. If you want to learn more, visit us on WeAreDevelopers.com. Thank you again for watching, and see you next time on Cappuccino with HR.